Hello, everybody. Welcome to another podcast. Today we have dapr, who's just recently coming off of a win at the Ludwig Tarik Invitational number 2. And if I don't know if it's like a premonition like last year, I think dapr, you're about to have a pretty good year, just like the guard did after winning last year.
Yeah, I hope so, Gotta keep the trend going.
100%. Yeah. How was we can start talking about this event a little bit, because you guys had been really grinding in the off season for like it kind of feels like in quite an intense fashion. MxS as well were grinding. There were some other teams, but you guys and MxS had created some kind of a rivalry for sure. And it kind of seemed like this event that they could have actually kind of essentially beaten the mental demons, because it felt like there was some difficulty that they had actually just like getting over the finish line and actually winning a best of 3 against you guys, but you still came out on top regardless. So that's pretty awesome. So talk me through sort of how the off season has been for you as a team, coming back into professional play, and then obviously this rivalry with MxS.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a good rivalry. I think because we were discussing after the event ended, I was talking with most of their players, and we're all on good terms. We're all friends. We're talking about how it feels like we are elevating each other when you are pushed. Because they always take us 3 maps. It's always really close games in every series. I think we played them, I want to say, around 5 times in all these off-season events. It's always like high pressure grand finals, or for something that one of us is gonna get eliminated. So it's always like a high pressure match, and it's always like 3 maps, triple OT, third map. So like it's always like really close. And I said, and I was talking with Flya for a long time, talking about it, where it was like now we're kind of like seeing the rewards of like having like this fierce rivalry, and like we are playing other teams, like the franchise teams are at the event. I think is probably the easiest example to point to, whereas like they felt easier than the tier 2 teams because we are so like we are constantly uh talking about like what we have to fix to like make the score line either bigger or for them to beat us, and we're constantly on each other, and it's a lot of fun. It really is like pushing competition. It's in my head what competition is all about. Getting pushed to like your absolute max instead of kind of like if you win and it's not really contested that much, or if you lose but uh it's against different teams and you kind of feel like you're losing to like kind of everybody, you kind of have to like talk about like the bare minimum. But like when it's always close, you're always talking about it. But yeah, this event was a lot of fun. But to answer your question honestly, my off season with Oxygen started when I joined. I don't know the exact date in which I joined, but I would say I've only been on the team for like 4 months, I want to say, maybe 5, of actual practicing. And a lot of it was me getting into the team, learning their very big strat book on the maps that were in the pool at the time. Really practicing all the time. But I would say it's how we practice and uh, everything that comes along with uh, the scrims day by day. It feels really productive with this team, more productive than any other team I've been a part of. And I would always say that's like up to the coaching staff, up to Mitch, and up to the players. Everybody holds each other accountable. We have a lot of insightful talks. It always feels like we get something out of what we talk about every day. Uh, but yeah, we started practice. I would say we got like a good month of practice in when we felt comfortable with our strat book. Then we played online qualifiers for LANs, and then our first LAN was was it Pittsburgh? I want to say a Pittsburgh LAN or Philadelphia, but I think it was Pittsburgh, where we won against QOR. So that was like our first stepping stone, is when we got to meet everybody for the first time. Obviously good vibes when we win, but still stuff to talk about. There's still stuff to learn. So we took that in stride. I said, okay, guys, like we're good. We're not too good. We gotta keep practicing. We're always practicing as hard as we possibly can. Then we got to, I want to say, the Sen Invitational. And then the Sen Invitational was like our first big test as a team because it had, obviously Sentinels, us, Moist, and G2, who was previously the guard. All really good teams, all really talented. And we came in, obviously you want to come in with us like we can win. It's possible for sure. And nobody expects us to win. Little pressure. So let's just show what we have and let's just be the best team that we could be. And we beat G2 twice, Moist once, and we lost to Sentinels both times. So we got to the finals there, and we lost to Sentinels. A really big learning experience for us as a team. Sentinels are a fantastic team, and they definitely hit their stride because they went to Korea to play an off-season event, and they also won that. So I'd just say Sentinels was really good. World champions on that team. Zekin is really coming to his own. I think he's one of the best NA players, or the best NA player at the moment. So really high hopes for them. All great guys. I love them all to death. So, take that in stride. And then we went to the SOAR Invitational, which was Northern LA. So it was right after. We went from LA to San Francisco right after the Sen Invitational, and we won that against Moist in the grand finals. And that was obviously a very hard fought win. They're a great team. They seem to constantly be getting better along with us. So it's same thing. I love the rivalry. I think we're all just getting the most out of it. So
Yeah, it's been really cool to see. Like it's produced some of the best matches, and I think a lot of fans who have obviously like been, I guess, like feeling really feeling the off season, because when VCT ends, it really does feel like there's nothing going on. So it's cool that both of you guys have been pushing each other so much and showing that level of competitiveness, because it's created really awesome games to watch that feel really competitive, and the levels amazing, especially for I guess what people might in their heads think of this like difference between tier 1 and tier 2. It really feels like that difference is very hard to see. If I mean, I don't think it really exists based on how you guys are playing, because at least from I think how I look at things, I look at the difference between tier 2 and tier 1 being things like discipline. That's one, because typically players need a more strict environment to maybe push themselves to have that discipline. And if you're not, let's say you're not in the top league, that in of itself is an easy excuse to not kind of like push that discipline, and that needs to come through the whole team culture. Everyone's going to be on board with it. It's hard to maintain that. So that's like one thing where I'm like, wow, that was really impressive, and that was visible a while ago now for both of your teams. And then also looking at just the, like you were talking about, the playbook, and I'm curious to hear more about that, and sort of if you would credit, like where the credit you feel like goes for all of this stuff. How much of the influence is bonkar, for example, in helping the team to have and maintain a culture that's conducive to this kind of discipline and conducive to the kind of output that you guys are finding, because it's not just the discipline and the team players. Like, it's clear that everybody is trying to come up with stuff and is pitching into the team, that vibe is really strong. And again, like, you guys aren't a VCT team yet, so I think for me personally, I was like, wow, these guys are they're really, I hope, putting some VCT teams to shame, because they're doing a lot of things that I feel like some VCT teams struggle to do effectively. So I guess, yeah. What about Bonkar's influence and just the overall how things function in the team overall? How does that work?
yeah, I will say, and because I feel like it might be a meme at this point that all of us will be like in a post-match interview or something. We'll be like, yeah, Bonkar is just a god, and we'll just kind of we'll just say like one little tidbit. So like we throw our appreciation out there, but we don't go in depth. And I'm not sure how much he wants me to go in depth about our team. But I will say, just to glaze him and have it open for like the public and anybody who is interested in knowing how like a coach in a very good team works. Because, and before I answer it, I'll even go and say my thoughts on tier 1 versus tier 2 is that it is just an artificial line. Like, if anybody was following Valorant before tier 2 and tier 1 and the franchise model was kind of put into the game, it was constantly like you'd see new teams that were just you'd see new teams come out and they'd just like get like top 4 in like the event, like a tier 1 event, uh and just like you never knew any of the players, but like they're really good as a team, and you'll be like, oh my god, I'm rooting for them, they're a dark horse, they're all this. And that was like a very exciting like aspect of like an open system, is that you'd have new teams come out and beat the teams that you've been following for years and have all these established players, and you're just like, oh my god, where they come from. So like, I guess in this model, if there wasn't a franchise system, I think we'd be like pushing up the grand finals of the tier 1 events in NA, like the regional events. I think we'd be placing really well in them. And I don't want that to seem as egotistical as it might come across, but it's more the fact right now we're hitting our stride as a team. And there really isn't anything separating us other than a title that Riot has bestowed on orgs that picked up players. You know what I mean? But yeah, let me go into bonkar. That was just my thoughts on that since we talked about it a bit. Bonkar is by far the best coach I've ever had, and that's like, I don't even want that to have any shame on my two coaches in Valorant, which is Raucus and Imi. They're both great. But Bonkar is honestly just on another level of knowing his players, knowing the right way to play, knowing how to instill discipline, knowing how accountability for team members is important. Because when I first joined this team, or honestly, when I was in the trial stage before they decided on playing with me, I was worried over having a 16-year-old in Redux and a 17-year-old or someone who just turned 17 who were just really young in Verno. I played with Mitch. Mitch is older. He's the IGL. He's 28. I know he's really good. I know what kind of player he is. I know what kind of person he is. I didn't know much about Scuba, but he's more towards my age. I think he's like young 20s. But I was really worried about the younger kids because obviously the running thing is the younger you are, the lowest amount of discipline you have a lot of you lean towards over peaking versus playing safe, and a lot of like the fallacies that when you play more and you get more experience, you kind of like tone it down a bit and be like, okay, let's play for the win and let's do this and not for myself as much. But then like you can imagine my surprise when these guys are the guys telling me like, yo, don't peek that. Yo, we need to do this, we need to do that, this is bad. Redux, I honestly, off like first impressions, I was blown away. Verno is the same exact way, but I think Redux is more outspoken with holding people accountable within the team. I remember a bad scrim day where it was like we just weren't playing well. We threw discipline out off to the wall, and Redux is sitting there like, what are we doing, guys? Like, cannot play like this. This is unacceptable. We need our discipline. We need to listen to Bonk. We need to listen to Mitch. We need to do this. We are playing wrong. We aren't doing the strats. We aren't listening to each other. And, like, to have a 16-year-old that, like, obviously that tells you, like, he wants to win and he's taking it serious. But it's just, like, it was unheard of for me to have somebody that young just have that much discipline and, like, self-reflection and also, like, want what's best for us because he wants what's best for the team. Everything is said with good intentions, and that is something that like everybody knew on the team. If I could go in on somebody, I could be like, why are we doing this? Why are you doing that? This is unacceptable. You need to do this way. We talked about this, and we'll all take it in stride. We'll say, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have been doing that. And it just goes off there, and we all listen, and we're all respectful. The environment is honestly insane. And that goes, and I give full credit to Bonkar because he works so well with these players that it is just fully embedded in them that discipline is right. Discipline works when everybody on the team is doing it. It's another saying that we have on our team where our way is really fun to play, but only if all 5 of us are doing it. Winning through discipline and all 5 players being disciplined is amazing, but everybody has to do it. It falls apart as soon as one person throws discipline out the window, but the other 4 are. It doesn't work anymore. So we all 5 need to do it all the time. And we do it in scrims day in and day out. We honestly make it a joke where we want to say we're in a situation where we have 4 alive and the other team has 1 alive. And it's the last round, the guy has to go for it. We will not give this guy an inch. We won't even let him get a fight. You know how some teams will just be like, oh, especially in scrims. I know most people watching probably have never been a part of a pro scrim, but pro scrims are a little more loose than matches, and that's like a downfall of some teams. Some teams kind of play really loose compared to scrims, and they want to tighten up the matches. We try to play scrims exactly how we play matches. We try to replicate 1-to-1. So when we play a scrim, we won't let them get a fight. And that like pisses people off sometimes. Like we've had multiple times where someone's like ghosting to like get a fight, because we aren't giving them. We'll die to bomb before we let you kill somebody, and it's like mental warfare in that way. But we all love it. our team is completely on the same page, whereas like this is how we want to play. So let's just try to do this all the time. And that is bonkar resonating with every single one of us and showing us the path to get to where we want, and all of us are just listening to him with the utmost respect because he deserves it. He's honestly amazing. So
I'm so happy to hear all of this because it's something that um I will preach to people as well, but it's so hard to do it. It's like so hard to execute that in a team environment. It's really easy in like a I mean, this is something that I actually learned like as a player in a 1v1 competitive environment, because there it's kind of easy to do it. It's like, oh, if I'm not practicing the way that I'm going to be playing, when the way I'm playing is I'm not giving an inch. If I'm ahead, I'm finding ways to get more ahead. I'm like always leveraging the advantage. I'm always making them feel like they don't have a good option. And so I can, and it's like you said, mental warfare. You're not allowing them to have a moment where their confidence can build. And instead, all that they have is like these oppressive decisions that they have to make, whereas it all feels like terrible, but they have to like fight through it. And that's because you're on the other end playing disciplined. And that is just such a huge thing that I think people don't understand the advantage it can give you to practice like that. Because if you're practicing like that, then you're getting the confidence too, because you know that like you're going to be dominating opponents. Because like you said, most teams aren't even going to be playing that discipline. So you get this like really cool confidence edge as a team. It's so validating as a team, I'm sure, when you're like just actually not just like beating people, but dominating them, because that's like the philosophy. So it's like super awesome to hear that, because I think that's a really hard thing to get in a team. Because I think like I think this is something people don't understand about coaching, is that the coach they have to create the system by which the team practices, and there's like so many things going on there. Every team's going to be different. All the players are going to have different tendencies. All the players will have like some players will have more endurance than others, and some will have more focus than others, and the team can easily sabotage itself just because someone's a bit more tired. And so you have to like find this like amount of practice you can do in the right way without over practicing, and then you start losing that discipline, because then you just like sabotage the whole process. Fix it. I think it's just my shit just being broken. I think that's what it is. Okay.
no worries. You need to change something or restart, or it's really no worries at all.
No, I think we're all good. So okay. And I just kept it recording so we can just like pick up where we left off. So I think you had just started to say something. So you were responding to like how it can be tricky for a coach to actually create a world where the team isn't self-sabotaging when you're trying to be disciplined.
Yeah, no. The thing is, I feel like I missed out on the learning process of that. I feel like I'm kind of reaping the rewards of the discipline that bonkar has been instilling on these guys for over a year, because they played most of last season as a collective 4 people, and I just kind of filled in at the end of, or at the, I guess, the start of this season. So I will say I'm kind of reaping the rewards. I'm sure there's a lot of heavy lifting that had to be done to instill it, but like since I joined, it literally just feels like they're just like a well-oiled machine, and I completely want to say it's up to Bonk that he probably went through a whole bunch of challenges to get everybody on pace, but when you have 5 now really motivated individuals that want to prove themselves and want the best, and they have insane respect for bonkar, they'll just listen to anything he says. And that, when you have a coach that is also very like, he's super smart, and he is completely capable of doing and taking us to, like, a world championship, so when he has all the options and all the space to do what he believes is right, I guess this is kind of what happens. This is like a team that is young, motivated, and puts their trust into an experienced leader and an experienced IGL and an experienced team with full faith. And that is something that is super simple to say, but it is nearly impossible to execute, because, like, I'm talking to you, you have been really involved with esports teams. I'm sure that, like, you have heard horror stories where one person can poison the whole team, or one bad thing you could lose trust, you could lose faith in maybe coaching staff or each other, and maybe build resentment. And I was always saying, with all my experience, that if there is ever an issue that we have with anybody, let's talk about it. Like, everybody has good intentions. We all want to succeed. We all share a common goal, and I just want us to be open. There's no talking to other people outside the team about any problems that we have. There's no anything that's secretive. There's no behind the back. I've talked to multiple people on this team uh, at at midnight discussing like a smoke or a flash or a play, and we go in depth and we go, hey, let's do this, no, let's do this, I think this is good, or our bind defense or our split attack. We talk about the most intricate things or very specific things in the most intricate ways, and I think that's like the building blocks of a super successful team. And it's just the culture. It's a winning culture, and I hope nothing changes. And if we keep on our path going forward, I think we could be world championships. I mean, honestly, the sky's the limit. So
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, super stoked to see what happens for you guys as you keep playing. I want to quickly rewind a little bit because for those who weren't around at the beginning of Valorant, they may not sort of understand that you were playing as for Sentinels for ages, and in fact, you were on this like really good team. Like when Sentinels was essentially one of the absolute best teams in the world. That was when you were a part of the lineup, and you were considered maybe like the best Sentinel player, perhaps at that time in North America. And I think so much I think came from your gameplay where it just felt like this is like an iconic dapr thing, like ways that you would like jiggle certain positions or just ways you would play Cypher in general. And so and if someone was to go to your Liquipedia page, they would see that you like the last result you had with Sentinels was in 2021 in August, and then now in terms of like a bigger event, like let's say this LAN, that's like 2024 in January. So there's like a 3-year kind of, not like 3 full years, but like that is a long time to be out of pro play and to come back. So what were you doing during this time? What contributed to you actually deciding to take the time away, and then what brought you back?
well, I never actually took time away. I did. So I guess I go on a path, my journey in Valorant, Cliff Notes edition, where I was playing with Sentinels, and yeah, for newer players that never really watched the beginning of Valorant, I I was actually super late to join Valorant. I mean, that's kind of wrong, but I did join at the end of beta when there's already like completely signed teams. Like most of the players that were playing back then were playing Valorant beta since the start, signed, and were playing all these events. I was still in CS at that time, and I honestly did not want to retire off CS, and I didn't want to retire from CS because I thought I was hitting my peak, or like not necessarily hitting my peak, but I was playing super well, the best I played in CS. I was playing CS Pro since I was 18, and now I'm talking when I was like 21. So like in 3 years, it was like the best I played in like 3 years of playing professionally. And I was like, I don't really want to leave this. Like I have a good thing going here. And then Shaz convinced me to try out for Valorant, his Valorant team, Sentinels, which might sound crazy for you guys now. Oh my God, Sentinels. Sentinels was like a 40k org when I joined. Uh, it was Shaz, Sick, uh, Zoms, and Sinatra, and they needed a fifth player, and they wanted a Sentinel player. And I was like, sure, man, I'll do it. I have nothing really, I have no money to be made there. I wasn't signed in CS. I was like, yeah, I'll do it. They really liked me. Honestly, I think it came down to between me and Def. Funny enough,
Oh.
back then, it was me or Def. And I think they want someone younger. So I think I might have gotten lucky that I was kind of on the up scale where I was like pretty much hitting like my peak. I was playing really well in CS, and they knew me. So they're just like, yeah, let's try him. And yeah, the rest is history. We really won everything that we played in, at bar like the first event. We really just hit our stride. But like thinking back to how like we played in Sentinels, it was so free flowy. We like never did VOD review. We never did server time. We just scrimmed, and we just clicked together. It was something that like would never be able to be replicated nowadays. It would never happen again. It was just 5 guys who were really close. We loved each other. We were a family. And we just clicked, and we just played the game. We played how we like to play, and I'm sure everybody who played us back then were saying like, I don't know what to do. We just got shit on. because it was one of those things where when you're playing people who are all just playing and just doing their thing, it is, as much as we're talking about discipline and like suffocate, like yeah, my team would beat Sentinels back then, but like that is the next level where everybody's just firing on all cylinders. It feels like every time you play them, and it's just like fuck, I don't know what to do. So yeah, we played so well. Then we obviously picked up Tyson after what happened. We run Reykjavik, which was the first international Valorant LAN. We won that undefeated. I don't think that will be broken again. So like I do have so much. I'm grateful for the things I've done in my past. I look back with heavy nostalgia. It was a great time in my life. I love all my ex teammates to death. I would do anything for them if they ever asked me. It was really just a great time. But you know, in life, not everything that is great lasts great your whole time. So we did end up, things happened. The team kind of fell apart a bit. We maybe got complacent. We maybe got sloppy. Uh, and we decided to remove Zoms. We had like kind of a revolving door of players until we settled on, I don't even know, dude. I don't even know who our fifth was after Zoms. It was just like
I'm trying to
kind of
remember.
like a whole bunch of people. I mean, we ended up. I mean, the biggest thing that I remember is that we played with Konpeki for a bit. He's a great player, but like it didn't really suit us. Then we
It
went to
depends
like
eventually.
I think our next thing was just after that we didn't even know, and we went to LCQ, and that's when we had Shroud and Zellsis. So it was
Oh
me,
yeah.
Shaz, Tens, Shroud, and Zellsis. And I actually love that team. Shroud is an amazing guy. He honestly put in so much work. If you ever look at Shroud, I mean, I didn't know what to expect really because like you have this guy who done it all, and he's been streaming for like as long as I can remember at that point. He's full time streaming for probably like 6 years going on at this point, maybe a little less, but it was a long time to be out. He came in full heart, full focus, and he really put in all the work that we could ever do, like above and beyond what anybody could ever expected of him, and he was amazing. And Zellsis, honestly, I love him to death too. He is one of my first friends in Counter Strike. I've known him for probably going on 10 years now, and he just never changed. Just an amazing guy, the most honest and entertaining guy you'll ever be around. So that was super fun time. But unfortunately, we lost to 100 Thieves, and I think they won it. We got out
Yep.
fourth, and then that was pretty much my last event with Sentinels. Then franchising came around, and I won't speak too much on it, but I was supposed to stay under Sentinels, and I was like in talks with Rob and Charlie and all these people that were kind of deciding the org's future and franchising and like who to get and like what they want to do. And I was a part of that for months. I want to say like 2 or 3 months. I've been talking to them. We're trying to pick teams, pick all these things. Uh, and then at the very last step, pretty much right before franchising about to start, they said, "I'm sorry, Mike. I know you've been doing all this, and we really had all like intentions of you playing for us, and we love you as a player, as a human. But we have a chance to pick up Sacy and Pancata, who just won the world championship." And he's like, "We have to do that, and I'm sorry. You could stay on the bench if you want. All that stuff." And I was heartbroken, to say the least. I really had it was my dream to play in franchising. I've been following League. I've been playing League since season two. I always wanted to be in like a franchising, like play on stage every week and in front of a crowd and build like a repertoire. It was like a dream of mine, and it still is. And that's why I'm coming back here with full heart, full focus. Like it's still my dream. But yeah, and that point was probably like my lowest point in my life where it just kind of threw me out of left field. It felt like my dream was crushed, and it felt like my friends kind of did it to me because I really love Sentinel as an org. I still do. I don't really hold resentment to them because I don't really believe in it. But yeah, at that point, my heart kind of split in a million pieces, and it kind of felt like everything was like fake. I was like, no, that can't be real, right? But can I really blame them? They picked up two world championships. If there ever is gonna be someone I'm gonna get cut for, I'm kind of happy it was like two people who just won the biggest event in the world. But yeah. After that happened, uh, I was just kind of like laying low for a bit. They offered me the bench spot with like a really good salary. really good. Like they wanted me to live in LA. They were gonna pay for like my housing. It was a really good deal. Like I'm not sitting here saying like they were super generous. But I said, no, I really want to play. Like I'm not done because like being a bench player and a six man for a franchise team, it could be really like looking back in the past year, there's a whole bunch of six mans that like played for the teams because they like want to change, they want to try somebody, and you know they found success. But like when franchising first starts, I'm sitting there like there's a world where I'm sitting here for a year and I don't play. And then like how does that reflect on me? I just sat out for a year. How do I ever expect to get picked up or have anything happen in my life if you know, they don't need me? So I said no, I want to play. Thank you for the offer, but I'm good. Shaz was playing in challengers and he was talking with G2 and he pretty much had the team. It was like Shaz, Whippy, Penny, and he wanted me. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, yeah, like why not? I love playing with Shaz. I love those two guys from V1, and Imi as a coach, I really liked. We had a strong relationship, and I said, yeah, why not? We tried out Oxy, and we also tried out Verno. Funny enough, this probably is not known at all because how would anybody know it? But those were our two players that we wanted to pick up. It was Verno and it was Oxy, and they were both so good. Like I don't want you to understand. I don't think you guys understand how good these two players were. And at the final moment, we said, okay, I think we like Oxy more because he was a duelist. He was dropping like 40 kills in these scrims. He was demolishing, and he was just super impressive. He had an amazing attitude. He was such like a fun-loving kid. It felt like in the scrims, and we're just like, yeah, let's go with Oxy so Shaz could play Sova, which he also wanted to do. He didn't want to play Jet and all that stuff. So there's other reasons as well. But like during that time, we said to Verno, because obviously we went with Oxy, that we're just like, you're gonna be so good. Like it's not a doubt in our heads, you're gonna be so good, but we can't fit you. And that's just kind of how esports is sometimes, you know. Like you could be so great, but like circumstances around the team you're joining just they don't add up, and that's like one of the heartbreaking things. But at the end of the day, kind of like what happened with me on Sentinels, it's life. You kind of have to keep moving forward and just keep pushing, and I think that's what everybody's, you know, everybody in esports, you get used to it and you just keep going, keep doing your hardest. uh and with that G2 team, we didn't really end up doing anything noticeable. We got second at MSI. We played really well the first half of the year, and we kind of like it kind of felt like a common stage in my career in Valorant. We kind of got complacent. We just kind of fell off a bit, maybe like foot off the gas, and we didn't really do anything notable in the Ascension playoffs. We lost to Oxygen, I think. I think we got like fifth place or fourth place. So we didn't go to the LAN. We had no hopes of making franchising. So at that point, you know, obviously G2 is gonna take a step back and drop the team because there's no reason to keep paying a team that, you know, you can't make Ascension with. And they ended up buying the guard. G2 is a great org. I love my time under them. So all respect to them. They deserve a franchise slot. I personally apologize to the CEO when we didn't make it because I felt so bad from going out like that. And then that was probably like, I want to say the lowest point of my career was after G2 because I personally didn't play well. I thought my career might be over. I didn't think I had any stock at all. From like, my head wasn't even thinking about franchise at that point. Like, I knew no franchise teams would even be looking my direction after that, like, how we went out and everything that was said. So I was sitting there and I was like, I might actually have to like step back. And even though I really want to play and I still have this fire left in me, all I want to do is win. Maybe it's just not in my cards. You know, that's just how I keep saying it. That sometimes it's how life is. You could try your hardest, but you might not hit it. And it was a tough pill for me to swallow, especially after my success at the start of Valorant. When you look back and you win international events, which is something only a few people in the world can do within the history of the game, I look back, I'm just like, damn, it was really sad. I almost feel like crying even thinking about it. It was really sad for me. And then Oxygen approached me, and I think it was Mitch. It wasn't Bonkar. I think it was Mitch, who was probably the only person who knew me at the time on the team. I was saying like, hey, you want to try out? And I was like, yeah, you guys are I had a lot of respect for them. I think they were a great team. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, by the way, like the money might be like lower than you expect or like this, and Auction's a small org compared to like likes of like Sentinels and G2 who I played before. And I was like, I don't give a fuck, dude. I'm just happy to play. Like this is me. You have to think about it from my perspective. I actually thought I might have to like take a step back from the game, and it really hurt me. It's one of those things where like sometimes you take it for granted. Like I've been playing video games professionally for my whole adult life. I've been getting money to play games since I was 18. I just turned 25. Uh, it was a big like thing where I'd never really thought like what happens if nobody wants me. I thought I'd retire on like my own terms, do this, but this was like a point where I was like, damn, uh I might not get a say. People might just not respect me as a player. They might not think I have anything to offer. And then these guys come out and say like, yeah, we really want to try you out. We think you have potential. And I think I really just put my all, and I'm still putting my all, and I really hope I never stop putting in my all for these guys, because when you view it like that, I was at my lowest, and these guys picked me up and said like, hey, we believe in you. And I just want them to have all the success in the world, and I really just want to do my part and leave it all out there and show these young guys that like, hey, like nothing's impossible. And for anybody watching who might hear this and be like, damn, that's kind of crazy, it really is. And I just want everybody who believes in me to have a share in my success, that hopefully I could bring the team. And I think we're heading in the right direction. And it I have something in my mind that bonkar was talking to me about, where he was saying he doesn't look at players. If you think of players on like a graph, so like say this is just a graph and this is just like the middle, he doesn't look at players that are heading down the graph or heading up. He just looks at it, or sorry, I kind of said it wrong. He doesn't just look at players, he looks at their trajectory, if they're heading down, if they're heading up. And he was telling me, I was looking at your trajectory, and yeah, you're heading down, but I really think you could head up, and your peak is really high. So we want to do it for you. And uh, he honestly taught me so much that like I never really thought about, and I just have never been more grateful for like opportunities quite like this one. Uh, and yeah, that was kind of my story in Valorant, and now I'm here. We're playing really well together, and I just hope we could all just keep it. My biggest flaw in this game on my teams I've seemed to get, we always start off really good, and then we get a little complacent, where like we think like, oh, we're so good, we don't need to do all the great things that got us here. But this team I know is different, uh, and I know it won't happen again. So
That's awesome. There's a lot of really awesome stuff that you shared there, which I think is really cool for people to hear, because I think you went into some more detail about, I think, like how some of these things can kind of on a personal level really affect you. And it's really tough. Like, you're talking about that moment where, if although you didn't say that, you got backstabbed or anything like that at Sentinels, not at all, but it felt like that kind of fuck, these people I believed in, and that I still believe in, and I know believe in me. It feels like they're turning their back on me a bit, even though something had just kind of run its course. And it's like those moments are so difficult to deal with. And that's actually, I think, it was, being a GM for the short time that I was doing that, was the least favorite part of that, was like trying to figure out that moment because especially right now, I think it's very esports is more volatile than I think anyone would like. And so so there's all these other factors that can kind of, I think, before it feels like it is time to maybe move on with certain players or staff, you kind of have to do it anyway because of the finances, or because of maybe just like for example, we had these trading windows in with VCT, where it's like, I think the first one going into franchising, oh, now suddenly like all the best players are suddenly like not signed, and like everyone's available. Like, what the fuck? Like, because we as 100 Thieves, we were in this weird position where we built a roster with Stella, Will, and Bang, and Asuna and Derek. And this was like a moment when we built that roster at the beginning, there wasn't like a lot of it was like mid-season, so there wasn't like a lot of players even available at that point, and we managed to build something really nice out of that. And when we got to champions, it was so confusing, I remember, because people won't really understand this, it's hard like to understand certain things unless you're able to be on the server or in the room with the team. But at that event, if it genuinely felt like we were a top 4 team in the world at that event, and we got really badly fucked by all the COVID stuff that happened. Where I mean, I won't go into all of it, but just we got really fucked by that. And so then we're at this decision where it's like, okay, now like, you know, there's all this pressure, like Yay and Cryo and like all these other big names, and it's like everyone's like pressuring me to like make a change to the team. And I was thinking about it like the way that you mentioned how Bonkar looks at like the I'm trying to project out, okay, how, like, where is this player in this amount of time. I feel like that was like kind of how I was trying to think of things as well, because I feel like when you're in the position of either managing or coaching a team, you need to understand what are all the strengths and weaknesses of every player. You need to understand every player really well, and you should be aware of everybody's like sticking points and problems. And you should then also be like, okay, well then I should have a solution for this thing, and then with that solution I can say, okay, I should expect that this solution should kind of I should be able to see it through, and that, you know, within a certain time frame. And so you should, like, if players have the right, like, if they're coachable and have the right like stimulus from the team, it feels like you should be able to solve most things. But I feel like we don't get time to do that often in esports, and that's something I really love about what you guys are building, because, and I think we talked about this on the couch as well. That's at the Ludwig Tarik event. Like, it's amazing that all these incredibly like talented players on both MxS and also Oxygen, that none of you guys kind of like got picked apart by any of the franchising teams before you even got to kind of like see things through together a bit. And like, because like you said, I think it's really since you joined that things really started to click for Oxygen, which isn't like a long period of time, but it does really feel like all this work that, like you mentioned, that was done before you joined, a lot of it's just suddenly kind of just like coming to the surface, like the long-term gratification, the delayed gratification, like it's happening. And so that's super sick. And you would never get there if you weren't able to stick together. So it's like kind of weird that these franchise teams are like, I don't know, it almost feels like more difficult to a certain extent to build a really good team in the current environment of franchising, as opposed to your situation where you've got like 5 like really hungry people, like players, and a really hungry coach, and everyone's just like looking to kind of do it right and not worrying about anything else. But yeah, I thought that was really cool that you shared some of those moments. And you know, what's interesting to me as well, as someone that has been a player for a long time and comes back whenever I can, is the many evolutions you do with yourself. So I'm wondering what that kind of looks like for you, because again, like, yeah, you're at a point where you're kind of on top of the world with that Sentinels roster, like you said, and then you're kind of coming back in from this very low point, like you said, where I'm sure that your own estimation of yourself couldn't have been the same as it was back when you were with Sentinels, when everything was going really well. So how have you looked at your own development as a player, like, you know, coming back into the scene in this way?
Yeah, I mean that's a fantastic question. I have honestly done loops around like how uh, because I feel like I'm always chasing, and it's probably true for, you know, everybody. You're always chasing the guy you want to be. You have your ideal person of who you want to be, your morals, your ethics, you in game, out of game, you have your ideal. Like I have my ideal. It's always in my head. I'm always thinking about it, and every day I'm just striving to be closer to that ideal. And obviously it's not an easy ladder. You're not always heading up one step by one step, always moving forward as much as you want to be. Sometimes that ladder gets dragged around, thrown out the window. You know, you could fall off really drastically, and I guess that's what some people would call rock bottom. And trust me, in esports, you hit rock bottom a couple times, but one thing about me and one part of my ideal self is that if I want something, I have a goal, I'm 100% committed. One bad thing, 2 bad things, 9 bad things, it doesn't mean anything to me, because I'm just gonna get back up, and that's, I don't know. I guess it could be a cringe Rocky quote where it's not how hard life hits you, it's how you get up. That's I kind of live by that, I guess, in a sense. I always just want to get up, and yeah, there's been multiple times throughout my career that my confidence just feels like it was just completely demolished. It felt like there's times where I felt like I was loved by so many people and my team, and we're all clicking, and management, we're all having such a great time, everything's going well. And then as soon as the results start coming, or people, you know, have out of life things that affect their play or affect their attitude or anything that happens negatively, it kind of feels like it just slowly dies, and then there comes a breaking point where either management or the team or the public perception of you just changes, and sometimes that's a tough pill to swallow. There are times where I looked at like a VLR comment or a Reddit comment or something that like sometimes I do, and like I remember back when we were winning, and it's always like such high praise. Maybe not for me, but like for my team. And if you're praising my team, you're praising me. I don't need someone to say like dapr's so good in every fucking post-match thing. It doesn't really affect me. But when you get like target hated, that does do a damper on your mental. But it's something that you learn through time, that like you build a resilience to it, but no one's like impervious to it. You can build a resilience, but you're not completely unfazed by it. So I stopped doing that and just focus on yourself. And I truly believe that how you feel out of the game affects you in game, and that is something that this team also is really huge on and have been pushing me to instill in my life. Like I think I have a talk. I was just talking with Bonkar before we got on here, where he's telling me to do cardio, and he's like, cardio is like steroids for gamers. You need to do it. Like you need to do better outside the game, and I promise you, you'll feel the effects in game. And like, you bet your fucking ass, I'm gonna do cardio probably after we're done with this talk. Like, it it is something that I always want to be better, and if that involves fucking eating walnuts to fucking increase my reaction speed, I'll do it, because at the end of the day, you only live once, and when you feel really strongly about something like I do for gaming, you'll do everything, and you'll sacrifice everything to hit your goal.
Yeah, and I know at the event you mentioned to me that you'd recently started working with an aim coach as well. This is something that is not. It's like some individuals have been doing it for a while, like Elige and Ye are probably the two biggest, most notable names in North America. But it's still, I would say, not like a mainstream thing that pros are doing. And many pros, in fact, actually have a negative view of this type of training. So can you talk to me through that, because that's an edge that you decided to go after. So I'm curious how you came about that, what your thoughts are as you've been doing it.
Yeah, it's funny. I feel like this is a funny topic in the sense that I did a 180 on this. uh I like knew about aim trainers, about aim labs. I was sponsored by aim labs for a time, but even when I was sponsored, and trust me, I love the product, I think it's great now, even while I was sponsored, it was just like a thing, like, oh, it's a fun little thing to warm up with. But the best way to do it is in Valorant, and like you should just play the game. Like honestly, like if you really want to improve, you're just gonna improve at the game by playing the game. Aim trainers won't really help you in that sense. But I honestly couldn't be more wrong, and that was even when they were paying me to endorse the product. I didn't really feel a certain type of way, but that's because I didn't buy into it. I didn't. I didn't believe that AimLab could help me, so I didn't think it would, because I didn't buy in. So as long as you're doing something, if you don't buy into it and you don't believe in like what you're doing with it, of course it's never gonna help you. And that was like a big attitude shift in my sense. And that attitude shift came from when I was invited to Red Bull Ready Aim Check, which for those who are unaware, it was an event held in Dallas in the middle of 2023. I want to say in the summer of 2023, where they invited AimLab pros. So certain people were invited that scored highly in aim labs, and some people had to qualify by getting like high scores in aim labs. Blah blah, as you will. So those were like the aim lab professionals, and then they invited people like me, people like Shaz, people like Curry, people like It's Timmy, people like just pro gamers and content creators that specialize in FPS games. And they said, okay guys, this is the task you're doing. Who will win? Who will get the highest score? We all knew it would be an aim labs person, obviously, because you play aim labs. I never really played aim labs, or when I did, I didn't really buy into it. Like I was saying, I didn't really believe in it, right? So I just went there for a fun time. But what I did learn while I was there is how impressive aim lab pros are, and the amount of respect I gained for them. And I'm telling you, it's something that like you can't really wrap your head around. You could watch a YouTube video of VT Matty, who won the event and is one of the best aimers I've ever seen, or probably the best aimer I've ever seen, and I have massive respect for. And he's like 18, and I know you interviewed him, and I think he's really impressive. When I watched him play and do his thing, just on the practice PC, just having a little fun, warming up, it was some of the most impressive things I've ever seen. And I'm sitting there like, we're sitting there behind him. Me, Shaz, and like Curry and like It's Timmy are sitting there like, holy fuck, these guys are insane. I would never like I couldn't wrap my head because when you look at something, I'm just like, you kind of like have that feeling like, oh, I could do that. I could, if I put some time in, I could do that. I'm watching these guys like they're aliens with like fucking 9 hands doing this. I'm just like, holy shit. It was by far some of the most impressive things I've seen. And yeah, I got shit on. Yeah, of course, by these guys. But when I came out, I left that event and I heard about them coaching. And it's not like just coaching like they don't coach like anybody, they just coach pros. They coach people like me. It's literally targeted towards like someone like me who has been playing FPS games, but they're looking for an edge or they want, someone to talk to you about this and that. And I was like, yeah, dude, you guys are insane. I definitely want to like, I want to instill some good habits that you guys have or to hear some insight from like you guys because it is probably completely different from things I've heard from things in Valorant and things in CS because people that play Valorant that come from CS and it was kind of just I kind of treat it like a CS mindset at this time. I definitely grown out of it, but some people definitely still have it that are currently playing where they are very old-timey. They believe what they believe and things like aim labs is not a part of that. Things like just a whole bunch of like new gen stuff they kind of throw to the wayside if you want to view it like that. They're just old timey in that sense. And now I'm fully embraced. Like I want everything that every advantage I could possibly have. If that is doing cold baths, cold plunges before I play, I'll do cold plunges before I play. If that's getting this and that water and taking these vitamins and eating this food, I'll do that. And if that's working with an aim coach, of course I'll do that. Like I want to be the best person I could be. And yeah, if there's one thing the program so far has taught me, because I'm not that far into it, it's that it has given me so much confidence. Like training, like willful training and working on what they feel is your weakness gives you confidence that you are steadily improving. Like I feel like I'm improving my aim, and that gives you confidence when you're in the server. Like I prepared for like pretty much anything this game could throw at me. So what's there to worry about? I've done the work, and that is like a feeling that I wish everybody can resonate to. And if you can't, put in some more work, dude. Like it is an amazing feeling. I think that is one of the top feelings in the world for a competitor, and it's the reason I love gaming so much. And it's the reason I do what I do is for stuff like that, to feel prepared in the moment and to know like if I just do what I do day in and day out, I'll get what I want. And that's how I feel right now, and that's how I just want to hold it. Just gotta keep doing the work.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think I love that point because it's something that I try to talk to people about as well, where people, because a lot of people struggle with confidence or they struggle with consistency, and like these ideas feel like really like nebulous, like very ambiguous, hard to kind of like oh I know you're supposed to be confident, but like, and I know that that's like, oh, this guy's just more confident, that's why he's winning. But I don't understand what that means. Like, what does that practically mean?
Yeah.
And because this was something a long time ago. I remember in Counter-Strike, there was just like this big phase of people like talking about like, I just have to find my confidence, or that guy was more confident, or I felt really confident. It's like, fuck, everyone's saying it's so important, but no one can actually explain what it means. Like, what the fuck's going on? So, I think it's really interesting what you said, because one thing that I tell people is like, oh, you can't, like, your performance is arranged. You can't really control like where it is on a given moment. But what you can control is if you're able to like identify like all your weaknesses or even areas of strengths you want to keep working on, then you can rest assured and just feel more comfortable that like, hey, I know I'm working on this. So even if I'm missing my shots today, well, I know that it's like going to take time to improve my aim overall, and I'm already doing the things in my program that I programmed for myself to work on that, so I don't have to worry about it as much. I've already taken care of it. And just that, I think that feeling, like, I think you use the word preparedness, I think it's huge, and I think it's really undervalued. And I think it's partly because I think it's much like with aim training. I think if you go to pretty much all the areas of performance, even if it's like stuff that people are more comfortable with, like the theory of the game and decision making, and you even mentioned with Sentinels how you guys didn't do much VOD review and stuff. I think it's really hard to feel that sense of preparedness or confidence, like that really true confidence, if you don't really know like what's in the recipe. Like, you gotta figure out what all the pieces are, and then you can start to kind of tease them apart. And once you can see it all, it's like that old thing, like, we only fear the things that are unknown. If you make everything known, it becomes so much easier to kind of have like measured emotional responses to things. And I think that's really important. So I love that you brought this point up, because I think it's really huge. Yeah. Do you have any
agree.
I was saying again, sorry.
Oh, I said I completely agree. I think it's like one of the most these little things I feel like are some of the most underappreciated, but some of the most impactful things in terms of performance. But I'm just like a huge sports psychology fan. I read so much and I hear so much from my team because they are the same way. The amount of times I heard Andrew Huberman said this, or Verno sending me a charts of things I could eat, stuff like that, that you
Nice.
wouldn't believe.
That's awesome. That's such a cool environment. That is definitely like an ideal environment if you're in that kind of place. Because I know that you're not. These are all the intangibles. I feel like because even though you might have people that are into like the performance stuff, it might be that some people are just not into certain parts of it, and they're not going to like want to talk about it as much. And it's so cool if you have an environment where everyone is like actually like super into sharing and talking about everything. Is like really like sharing that passion. Because I've been on teams where you'll select a team, or you'll build a team, and you're building it because of like the stuff that which is like, okay, this guy plays this role, has this much experience, and kind of like you said, oh, this guy's this age versus this age. So you have like all these known things that you can kind of like, you can move the pieces around and make something that makes sense. But then when it comes down to it, like, the intangibles, as people describe it, is like how well people might get along in certain ways you could never predict. And there is some like element of predictive that where you can be more accurate with this if you've done a really good job building a team culture in the first place, and then you're bringing people into that, and you can see how well they calibrate with that. But I don't think most esports teams are ever in that place. I was talking
It's
to
rare. It's
yeah,
rare.
it's very rare. I was talking to one of the guys who's with Adamas, and they're like the 1H. So Adamas is like, you're familiar with them?
Yeah,
So for people that don't
I watched
know,
them.
I've interviewed a couple of them because I work with them, and they're amazing, like people and professionals, and now good friends as well. And Adamas are like the guys that work with a lot of professional teams in Europe. They do some in North America too, but they're mostly working with teams in Europe, and they're performance coaches, and they're there to try to essentially optimize every single part of performance. And like team culture is always going to be one of those big ones. And I was talking to one of the coaches, and he was saying how like one of his colleagues, it took him about 3 years to really get in an esports team which didn't really have a culture that was built up in the first place. It took about 3 years to really get there with that, because of all of the volatility in esports, and just like how it takes time to systematize these various processes that will then help to kind of bring out and reinforce like certain characteristics. Like we talked about, one of those characteristics being discipline. Like that is a result of so many other things you're doing, or so many other rules that you have, or boundaries that you set, or behaviors that you encourage or don't, or disencourage, or things that you incentivize or disincentivize. It's like it's a result of all these things. So it takes a long time to do that. And so yeah, it's super hard in esports to kind of be able to predict if the players are going to create a good culture, just without a lot of sort of work, that's already gone into it for the team. So it's a really good book about this called Legacy. So I really always recommend that one for people.
Legacy.
Yeah, this is like the GOAT. It's like the GOAT book about team building. It's about the
Who's it by?
It's by James Kerr, Kerr. And it's about the All Blacks the rugby team, who are the most winning team in sports history, and the book investigates why that is, so how they achieved that, because it's over such a long span of time. And the answer is the team culture that they built. And so it's a book about how they built that culture, and it's
Uh,
incredibly good.
that is
Yeah,
fascinating, and honestly, it just points more towards what I've always believed. I feel environment is the most important factor to a successful team. And I say that you can't, I refuse to believe teams win without a good culture. I refuse to believe it. I've never heard of it happening. I could hear of dead teams dying. Dead teams, like teams that kind of know like they aren't going forward with the same five or whatever circumstance they're in. I've heard of them winning events and like whatever, but that's not necessarily a bad environment per se. But I've never heard of a bad environment winning an event.
yeah,
Or if it is, it's definitely like there's luck involved. There is like right time, right thing. But like to steadily win, you need a good environment. And that could look, and that's obviously the very hard thing about environment because it will look different depending on who is on the team. Like our environment on Oxygen, who I think are playing well, is completely different than the environment I had on Sentinels. If anything, they're almost polar opposites. But both teams are super good. And it's so fascinating. I was a part of both.
yeah, yeah. It's again, it's like I guess like even though it's pretty ambiguous, like the whole like the word intangible is like it really does help, I think, with this. I remember with it's another reason why I didn't want, like, I didn't like in my heart of hearts I didn't want to like cut Will when we cut Will from 100 Thieves, because his value on a team is like really immense because he's extremely emotionally intelligent. So he's and he like cares about people. He really cares about how you're doing. He like really cares to like listen to you. He really
Hmm.
cares, like, if like he'll pick stuff up on in the environment that and sees that maybe someone's like was affected by something. Like, 99% of other people would not notice that thing, but he'll like
He's
notice
the
it, and
glue.
he'll like check in with someone about it like later. Like he actually
You need
like
that
shows he
guy.
cares. Yeah.
You need that guy. He's the glue. He holds it together. You need glue.
Yeah.
You need it because I would actually say, uh, I would say that has to be the biggest error in esports. Those guys are underappreciated, and that's just a fact because they aren't appreciated because it doesn't show up. There's no stat for that. There's no emotional intelligence stat.
True. And
So
it's hard too, because that the value, a lot of the value there, it like really translates in how like effectively you can build the culture, which also is like something you can't measure, like you can't really measure that. So yeah, I totally agree with you. It's criminally underappreciated for sure. Yeah, it sounds like Zellsis is kind of similar in that regard, that he's like really like, because even in being around him in person just a little bit, I can kind of get that feeling that he's just like very warm with people in a way that's not super common in the world of introverts that in the
yeah,
video game industry. So
I would
yeah,
say me and Jordan are very similar in that aspect, and that's why we get along. And it's funny that you're saying because I don't know if you met him before. Uh, it's I don't know if you met him before that event. Uh, but yeah, he's one of my oldest friends, and I was talking to him, and I said we could never team. And I literally said that. It's like we could never team because we are the same person. We can't do it. It would be we'd talk too much. We'd have too much fun. It wouldn't work. Like, cause there's a point where it's like an environment is good because there's only one of them. And then you imagine five extroverted, very fun having team, and just like you wouldn't get shit done, dude. It would be too much. And that's how I feel about Jordan. It feels like we are very similar in that sense, but we bring out the best of people that are introverted. That we look out for them, or we see like, hey, you mentioned something like, hey, do you want to talk about this, or how did this feel? We did something new that like affected you. How did that look? Did you like that? And it brings people up, and then eventually they are like, yeah, it's fine to talk about this. Not like because people have fears of teams that they're shy or whatever the case is, and you have like a fear that like if I say something that like it might be what's the word it might agitate somebody, or it might start some negative emotion towards somebody else. Like you don't want to do that. But the fact is, like, when it does happen and no one gets hurt by it, and you know the monster didn't bite you and everything's fine after you said it, then they're just like, oh, it's fine. I don't need to be scared about this, and it brings out like the best of everybody. And I think that's why someone like Will, uh, someone like Zellsis is super impactful for a team, and it's not a coincidence that Sentinels, with all their talent, with Pancata, when they do step back from Pancata and put Jordan in the starting lineup, that they just own. It's not a coincidence in my head at all. You need that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting how it's very easy to overvalue certain traits, like you just mentioned. Yes, it's like this on paper, like the name value, like it like doesn't kind of add up, but somehow it still produces like better results. It's very interesting, and again, it's like very hard to kind of figure that out.
It's impossible to quantify. Impossible.
Yeah,
That's the thing. That's why I guess when you want to like hurt esports, it's like esports talent scouts, and like it's not that they're bad, because they are working off the limited information they have, but compared to like, I don't know, any other professional sport, NBA, NFL, I guarantee these guys are putting in so much work to figure out, like, hey, does this guy have this one little piece we need? Do we need that glue? Do we need this? They aren't just looking at this guy fucking throws that ball and has 9,000 receiving yards. It's they look at different metrics, and I don't know if we're there yet.
yeah. Yes, and there's another one too, which I think goes to what you mentioned with bonkar as well, which is, I guess, a point that's more to do with how coachable players are, because that's so interesting. Because I think we've kind of touched on some parts, like you mentioned about buy-in. Like if a player doesn't have buy-in to something, that they just can't, they're not going to be able to interface and get the value from that thing. And it's super interesting because some players I've noticed, they really struggle to create their own buy-in for like a lot of things, and so it becomes like very limiting because they're too afraid to fuck up what there's like the things that are working for them. And I think that's usually where it comes from, and so and that's why they're resistant to doing lots of different things. And this is actually something, for example, again, I'll just bring Will up because fuck it, Will's awesome. And
Shout out Will.
hell yeah. Because actually he came up briefly, Sean and I, when we were at the events, talked about him as well, because it's so interesting. When we first got him on the roster, he was for the duelist slot. It's like, okay, well, we know we're not getting like a top operator player in the world in Will, but we're getting someone that's going to be able to like do this job, and cool, let's run with it. And then the first like couple months were really difficult. It was really, really difficult. And Will was definitely like the player underperforming the most on the team. And it was like not kind of doing some of the right things. Maybe like the communication was kind of off. Just like everything was a bit off. And so it's kind of frustrating when you looked at it at face value. But if you started to like really listen to some of the things that he was saying, it's like, there was this point where he was saying that like he was having issues with confidence, and he was saying in certain points of the game, he would just like communicate something that you shouldn't really calm in a game, which is like, oh, I feel really awkward right now. And it's like, oh God, why are you saying that? And then after a while, I was like, hang on, he's actually really he has this ability to be actually very self-aware. And if you can actually harness that, that's one of the biggest superpowers to improving as a player. And so we hooked him up with Jared Tendler to work with Jared Tendler, and to really help create a system that he could then work on. The system requires like the self-awareness, because you have to be able to like to map out your own performance, which is part of the system. With Jared's help, you have to be able to understand like how you're feeling right now, and like you have to be able to have this really deep sense of like what's going on internally. And so because he had that, and then he's also someone that puts the work in, he then kind of like started improving like fairly quickly, and to the point at which by champions, like his first international event, he was I was the best player on the team. And like he really turned it around, and he was the reason why we one of the main reasons we qualified at the LCQ. Like just his performances at that event were incredibly good. So yeah, it's like that level of coachability, like you could never have known those qualities about Will in when we picked him up. We could never have known that, but we were lucky that he showed those things, and we were able to see them in time, and then like give him what he needed to kind of help level him up. And then it was at the point where it's like, fuck, I don't want to cut this guy, because I feel like he can conquer anything if he gets the right attention. So, and that's I think one big problem. And I think one thing you mentioned already as well, you said that Bonkar's done some great work because he's really bringing up like great habits and behaviors in these super young players, so they get to start off really well. And I know this is a criticism of Riot and how they run the circuit, because now they're not really allowing an environment where tier two or teams can get, like bigger orgs can get involved in tier two in a way that feels like they get a return for that they can then salary players and then have coaches like Bonkar and like quality individuals helping to bring up the tier two talent in this way to get it right from the start. Because instead you're going to have like really talented players, they get onto a tier one roster, or they are attracted because, again, like we said, it's hard to know anything other than the stat lines. And now, you know, they don't know how to be disciplined, they don't know how to communicate, they don't know how to operate in a more professional capacity. So so it's a problem.
It's a big problem. I was kind of blown away when I read about how Riot wants to treat tier 2, where it was like, I might want to reference the article because I don't want to speak out of turn and I don't want to like misrepresent what he was actually saying, but I think one of the biggest things when he was speaking about tier 2 is that he was saying he doesn't want stability in tier 2. He kind of just wants it as a feeding ground towards tier 1. And that approach is just so caveman-esque. It just seems like there's I would need it to be explained to me in like 4 different people to like for me to like fully grasp how they want that to like work and to be successful. I guess anything could work, but for it to be like successful and to have a good talent pipeline, it definitely is heading towards the wrong direction. In the sense that you want tier 2 teams to be kind of where they are now. No help thanks to Riot towards the tier 2 scene, and it was something that I was outspoken about before franchising even started, where I was in the same kind of situation CS, where he's kind of just like stuck in tier 2, like maybe qualifying for some events, but not really qualifying for majors or anything like that, where you kind of want to like help boost them up because they are amazing players in tier 2. And how like nepotism works in esports and how many times I've seen it. I've had people pass up on other great players because like that guy talks like he talks weird, or he says this, or he complains about in ranked. Like stuff that like doesn't actually matter, like we'll just turn one person off, and that person being like no is just like, okay, then he's just not even like, he's not even gonna be like a chance. And it's like a sad kind of like little system that esports has developed, and I know it will change in the future, but it's like one of those things where I know it's gonna change, but I want it to happen now.
Yeah.
Because it's just like someone like Verno, someone like Redux, someone like Scuba. These guys could be the best players in North America. They just need like the right opportunity. They need the right environment. Like, and it was also something I was preaching to them, and it's not like me saving myself. Like, I'm confident in myself, I'll always build up myself, but it's like, if you guys get offers, like, I'm not saying don't take it or anything, but I'm always gonna say, like, the grass isn't always greener. Like, you never really know, like, what a great thing we have going until you leave it.
Yeah.
And I know, like, you guys might not have that, like, you never done it before and you don't have that experience. Like, I've done stuff like that. I've had it happen. I was on every spectrum of this, and I'm saying, like, it's almost never worth it. And no one on our team is like we're salaried. We're not like hurting for money. It's not like there's no reason to be greedy. Like, we're a great thing happening here. I promise you, like, stay and just work on this system. Your like growth is like 10 times what it might be on another team. Like, your growth is insanely high on another team. Your growth could like even dwindle. Like, some teams just aren't built for new players, or like their coaching staff isn't nearly as good as Bonkar, or their org isn't as supportive. Like, whatever the case may be, the grass isn't always greener in esports, and it is something that they'll always try to make it seem like it is. You know, everybody tries to, you know, do their little tricks, but it really isn't. And I've learned that the hard way multiple times. So that's just advice for just young players. Also get lawyers for contracts. But
there we go.
That's funny. My advice.
It's funny because like because I think like a common thing when you get like experience in this way because the experience you're talking about is like no, it's like no small thing. Like it's like life shattering potentially. Like you were describing earlier. Like these things are really huge life lessons, and it's you're almost like cursed. There's this in Greek mythology. There's someone called Cassandra who's like was like given the gift by Apollo or something of like seeing the future, but then later cursed to only so that she could still see the future, but the curse was that no one would ever believe her. So and I feel like that's kind of like this. That's
It's a
like
good
this.
curse.
It's like this thing in like human beings. It's like you have this experience. It's like guys, don't fucking do that. Like
Yeah.
you know, like
Yeah.
but they have to experience it. They have
Yeah.
to learn the lessons themselves. It's like it's so painful to see that, and even to some extent to see it with yourself. Because sometimes stuff like that, you know, you do it to yourself, and you're like, "Fuck, I knew, I knew that this
Yeah.
was gonna be like
Yeah.
this."
Yeah.
Um,
Sometimes you trust your gut, doesn't really work out, or you don't trust your gut. Your gut's telling you one thing, and you say, "Nah, I'll try it." Oh fuck! I knew. I knew.
yeah, like you like have to confirm it. So for some
Yeah.
reason, I don't know what it is. We're fucked up, you know, as human beings.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad.
It
But
also brings that just reminded me of one thing our team had to learn. One thing, one of the few things we had to learn as a team, where sometimes, and this I'm sure it'll resonate with a lot of people. Sometimes when we die and we're spectating, we'll like try to like dead calm a bit, and we'll be like, "You have ult, you could do this, you could do that," and I was saying like, let's not do that because people need to learn by making the mistake. Like I don't want you to say the perfect play to him, and I don't want him to listen to you say the perfect play and then do it. Even if it wins, it's not good because I want him to do what he wants to do and then learn if it's a bad play. And yeah, we could talk about it after, like, yeah, you could have done this, like this is probably good. I want him to learn in game like that his right play in his mind, because that's when you do a play is like what you think is good. You need him to do that and then lose or whatever the fact is and be like, yeah, it's good or yeah, it's bad. Or even if he does the wrong play and it wins, we could talk about like, no, you probably should have stayed backside. You would have guaranteed win. Or yeah, you should have played bomb. You should have used your molly, whatever the case is. You want people to make their own mistakes instead of like tell them. That kind of reminded me of that.
yeah,
Sometimes you do want people to make their own mistakes so they do learn the hard way.
yeah, I definitely I think that's like a really good point too, because one of the things that I try to do with teams as well is to say like, look, we need to celebrate mistakes, because mistakes is where, you know, it's where you learn. And like you're saying, like if you don't if there's any reason that you feel like that you have like negativity attached to making mistakes in any environment, to be honest, like it's actually very negative. Like you don't, you lose your freedom as a player at that point, because you're always like worried, like there's like this extra thing in your mind, and you don't want it to be any extra things. You want someone to kind of just do whatever stupid shit they think that they should be doing, and like you say, like that's not the process is then kind of helping to correct afterwards, or not, as the case may be. But you can never have that environment where it's like
Mm.
people can't just be making their own decisions, or their decisions are taken away from them in a way that's not beneficial. But it's hard though, because I get it, because people want to win at the same time. People like, you know, just that's sometimes that'll be the cope, is like, oh, you know, I just
Yeah.
want to win.
Oh, dude, it's right there in front of me. How can I not say it? It's like I know. I see it too, but it's just like you need to let them. You need to let the people find their way because you already found your way and you learned probably exactly how I'm saying it. You learned by yourself. You learned but like they have us. They have people to ask questions. They have, a different perspective. Like I've learned from them. Too many times I tapped a bomb or like I'm playing time on a bomb and they'll be like, it's unwinnable. You just need to peek at after 2 seconds, 2.5 seconds, and he can't get halved and then you win. Like I've been hounded on that before because sometimes I peak too early and it's like, oh shit, he won by like 0.1. Oh no, you let him get halved. That's bad. Stuff like that. I don't know.
Nice.
There's so many intricate like things that go down into sports psychology, go down into like how you want your environment to be, and I'm just happy that us as a team have found a really good mixture. And yeah, and it is something that is so fascinating to me because uh, there are every team has smart people on the team, involved with the team, has some aspect of involvement, and sometimes it just feels like even if you know the answer or like you really have an inkling towards the correct answer, it feels like sometimes your hands are tied, or people, I guess, aren't necessarily coachable in that sense. Sometimes people are like very locked down. I've had teammates that don't really respect sports psychology. When you have like a sports psychologist come in, like we've worked with multiple before, on some of my past teams, where some people just don't really buy into it, or like maybe they even think like something's wrong. I don't want to go into details 'cause I don't want anybody to take offense, but yeah, it's just some people just aren't that receptive to it, and it, as much I want to say it is a bad thing, it's not always a bad thing, because that means you have like true conviction in what you believe in, and I think conviction is really important, and like decisive. I think it goes into decisiveness in game. Uh, so yeah, I feel like you can almost frame anything into a negative or a positive, and that's fascinating to me. So
Yeah, yeah, that's and just I think like framing in general is just it's a superpower. If you know how to use it well, it can definitely be a superpower, and it's definitely something I like to talk about for sure. I think, dude, there's a lot of really interesting topics here. I'm really curious though, what you think is the point of no return in a team. Like, do you think that there is something that feels somewhat unrecoverable from? So like maybe it's like a severe like loss of trust or respect, or I don't know if there's like maybe even some experiences you've had in teams where you felt like, oh, this dynamic just created a world where it's not possible to fix or move forward.
I think I think it actually does. I mean, I feel like you hit it. I feel like it is. As soon as you lose respect towards one another, it's super hard to gain it back. And the same with trust. Trust is kind of like if I had to treat respect, and some people like view respect in a sense that like you have to earn respect, or like I need to like know that you're good and then I'll respect you until you prove that like you're not good and I don't respect you. It's more everybody starts off with a very high level of respect, and then you do your best to keep it and like to be a respectable human and to be upfront and honest and hold it to a high level. But when it comes with trust, I think some people like they get trust in the wrong sense, that trust is completely built. uh if I play with somebody random, I might trust them a bit to like do the most basic thing ever, but I don't trust them to like play like it's the grand finals or like do everything perfect, especially how I want them to play. It's more like trust is completely built up, and building that trust is a long and tedious road, but one thing could go bad and trust is broken if you do it with malicious intent. And I think malicious intent is like a big thing on teams, where being like passive aggressive like ruins everything on teams. And it's probably the biggest reason teams die. If you're passive aggressive or somebody's on your team passive aggressive, but they're passive aggressive in the sense that they will never own up to it and you can't really have a conversation with them about it, like it won't really change. Or if you talk to them and you kind of talk about the issue, but they don't really implement anything that will change it going forward. I think that is probably like the number one team killer, along with like resentment that slowly builds. Like I'm sure there are multiple teams that have died because someone's playing in a weird way. Like their play style is like leans towards baiting and being in post round versus like entering. So like if someone's always getting baited and they like build resentment towards the person baiting them, that could kill a team. It's like it could be as simple as that. I don't think anybody has ever gone out of their way to like personally insult somebody. I've never even heard of that happening. It's always in game with like very microaggressions, I guess is the best word to say, that isn't really fixed. Or the person getting upset isn't talking about it and not saying that they get upset by it. Would
Yeah,
be the biggest reason.
yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I think one reason why all that stuff I think is extra tough to navigate is just because I feel like, especially with young like people in general, it's like that's like why earlier I was talking about like self awareness being a superpower, because that coupled with the capacity to be vulnerable is like the I guess like the key combination of I can now share something about myself that allows you to kind of see more like what I'm experiencing and relate to it, and then to understand like more where things are coming from, as
Yeah.
opposed to like the default thing is like, oh, I don't know, I don't have enough awareness. It's like I'm hurting, but I'm not even really aware of it. I can't admit that because that would probably like I have like a
Yeah.
weird way of even feeling about that. And then so instead I'm just gonna like shell up, and now you can't even get through to me. So, and I'm just gonna
Yeah.
keep being a dickhead, and because I'm a dickhead, you're gonna be a dickhead, and so everyone's a
I
dickhead.
mean,
And
it goes. I think that's a great point where sometimes it's like younger players don't have the emotional intelligence to like really communicate and like articulate how they're feeling or why. And then sometimes it even goes in the sense that that's one bad thing, one part of the spectrum that's bad. And there's also other parts of the spectrum that's like some people just lack empathy.
mm.
Or like they'll only give you empathy like when they feel like you deserve it. Like if they respect you, they'll
Ugh.
give you empathy. If they don't respect you, they won't give you empathy. And like I feel like that is catered towards players that like will join a team that has been established or like an older core of like people that like have done a lot and then you like join them and then it just feels like you're just giving nothing. And yeah, it's just like those are all just like super negative and something I've always like preached to everybody I played with that like we cannot have it. Like I have very high morals that like I always want to maintain and I would never have anybody that I ever play with ever feel like that. Uh so I just hope other people just live by that because I feel like the world the world would be better, esports would be better if people just are fucking nice to each other. Especially when like you put it in the context, you're playing a fucking video game getting paid, dude. You don't have to be a content anybody. You're not better. Like
Yeah,
you might be better in the game. You're not like a better human. Like that doesn't exist.
yeah. Yeah, the easy thing, like the easy, like anyone can do it thing is to just like not control your emotions and not have a standard for why you should do that, which is like you said, like a mixture of either empathy or just not being an asshole to people, not being like malicious to other people. That like that anyone can just like give in to their emotions and then allow people to get hurt and allow themselves to kind of just be a mess basically. It's the hard thing is actually being nice to people sometimes because you got to get over your own shit. And I think it's hard for some people to recognize that sometimes because I sometimes feel like it comes the most, that kind of behavior comes the most from people that are kind of trying to represent themselves as being like really like either some kind of version of macho or like I'm so fucking awesome and you suck type of thing, when in reality they are being super weak in their behavior. So it's like it's always quite ironic when I see that because it's like if they because I'm sure if they have that, then one day that person hopefully will have that moment when they realize it's like, oh, i'm being I'm being the arsehole here. Like
Yeah.
I'm not angry. I'm actually, well, I am angry, but it's because I'm hurt and I got to deal with
Yeah.
that. And then that, and other people are being hurt too. And now I'm able to see into other people a little bit. And now, oh, fuck it, this is actually kind of more complicated.
Yeah.
But it's cool that you have the experience that you can have because something that like, Redux couldn't have yet is the experience you have where you're like, I've seen where this shit goes. So I've
Yeah.
had that experience. So this small thing, which feels like a small thing, and like, oh, maybe I don't want to get into this little confrontation. You're like, no, we have the confrontation because we do
Yeah.
not want to
No.
get to there.
I think I view confrontation as a good thing because like this will like piss people off that like I say I want confrontation in my team, but it goes with like the context that like it's above board. Like you aren't I'm not talking to you personally in the sense that like I would never insult you personally. I'm talking about in game or this happens or like this part of our comms and it is with good intentions. And as long as everything is held with the standard that is good intentions, you aren't having a shitty tone, you aren't being passive aggressive. You're talking about it like two fucking adults trying to work out a problem because that's what it is. And then uh, as soon as you keep everything above board, you'll be surprised by how open everybody is. And it's like, okay, yeah, we could do that. Yeah, you come to an understanding of like you either come to like we could fix this doing this or we could come to like this agreement that like it works only when like this happens. You come to like a very understanding way of viewing it where both of you can agree like yeah, this is a good way to move forward. And that honestly, not only is it like it's good to like kill that resentment or like any negative emotion, it also builds like an insane repertoire where it's like holy shit, I could talk to my teammates and I come out feeling good about it. and like something got fixed as well, like that, it honestly is like a buff more than anything else. And that's why I will fully say that confrontation and with good intentions is always like the way to go within teams. And I feel like if you aren't having confrontations about things that you feel wrong, but you think something's going wrong, you're failing your team or your team's failing you, like whatever case it is.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree with that. I think it's the cornerstone of, because there should in theory always be confrontation, because even if you have the same goal, not everyone's always going to agree how you should get there, and so it might rub some people the wrong way. And like if you never like get in front of that, you're just stuck in that like negative place, and you can't move past it, and then you're just always just everything is just going to be worse, and then you're adding problem on top of problem, and then before you know it, everything is just destroys itself. And I've seen that happen too, where again it kind of comes from like not doing or being guided to do the personal part of the work. Sometimes is where sometimes I see this problem, because then if someone just can't understand precisely what their own issue is, because I've seen that happen a bunch of times where like someone knows that they have like an issue with something, but they don't really know how to articulate it. And so because of that, it's also harder for them to get an answer from a conversation that's going to feel good to them, because they don't truly understand what their own problem is. So it's like a lot of these parts of like team dynamics are honestly like very challenging. And I think it's kind of cool to talk about it a little bit, because when we were talking about like trust and respect being like the kind of like the be all and end all. Again, that's something I've seen a bunch of times too, and it's really sad because sometimes you get teams that can or have like worked really well, but then there's something happens with the trust, and it just isn't like a way to like really come back from it. And especially if
Yeah.
you're going like you're in season, or like you're in between seasons, sometimes you just don't have like a good time to fix some of these problems and sit people down and just like really like get to the base issue, and really just tough it out with everybody and come out ahead, because there are methods to do that. Like there's I think Astralis popularized something that's used in rugby called empty the backpack, or as one of the Adamas coaches called it, like stab me in the belly, not in the back. You've heard of this one?
Yeah.
Have you tried it? Have you done that with
I
any
love
teams?
shit like that. I love shit like that. I honestly, I do most of those things without, like, before I knew it. It was like I kind of just put a word or a saying towards like what I felt like I was already doing. I just like, uh, how I approach like teams is like how I would approach like any relationship, where like communication is just key. And I am just like a super brutally honest, communicative person, where if anything, if I feel any way about anything that is different from what we are doing, I will tell you. And I will always be upfront. Like if whatever I'm saying to you, like I am saying to you, I would never go behind anybody's back. I would never, it is all right there. If I have a problem with like how we're approaching something or how you might be doing something in particular, I will tell you. And like I won't, and I like understand if like a certain person doesn't really like to be confronted in front of everybody. I could privately message them, I could call them, I could do this, I could do that. I could be like, how are you feeling? Sometimes I'll just start a normal conversation and then like it might just end towards like me mentioning it, and like with like, set the tone a little better than just like out front only business only. I do care about everybody I play with, so it is uh stuff like that. But yeah, I personally I think anybody who cares, any team who cares enough to implement any of those are in the right direction. And I think it's the teams that kind of try to ignore things that I feel like are 100% like a fact of life that this helps. Those are teams that, will struggle with this.
Yeah, I think it's well, I should clarify actually what it is, because some people who's listening might not know what it is. But empty the backpack is this idea that if there is any, it doesn't have to be that there's like stuff going on in the team, like dynamics where like one person clearly has an issue with another person, or like there's just like some stuff under the surface that kind of needs a conversation, to get it all out in the open and deal with it, so that you can kind of all like say, you can all name the shit that you're personally having problems with in the team, and then you can kind of deal with it as a team, and then just move forward. It's a method to do that, and so you get people in a room. Typically, you'd have like a sports psychologist, or someone that's there as like an authority, that figure that can help to one, like give communication tools to the team so that people know sort of like the rules and how they can communicate in a way that's productive in that environment. And then secondly, to also help create the emotional safety so that people can be vulnerable in that environment. So you can give people the tools to communicate, and then you create the environment for them to feel comfortable to do so and be vulnerable. And then hopefully at the end of it, everyone's able to kind of empathize with each other better, and you're able to kind of quash some of the issues that maybe exist that you otherwise didn't really have the space to kind of talk about. It's kind of like, honestly, it's like a therapy session. Ultimately, is what it's like. And so that was something that I think Astralis popularized in Counter-Strike, and then other teams sort of adopted that moving forward. And I think it's really effective. That kind of stuff's really useful because it's just so difficult to, especially with esports players, to get people to be honest about their feelings and to like talk about them in a way that helps the team, because people don't understand that this shit fucks up teams.
Yeah,
it really does.
No, it really does. Another thing, because as much as everybody talks about bonkar, I honestly want to give a massive shout out to Rustun, who's our assistant coach, and actually played with them before I joined, because he's also just a Killjoy Sentinel player, and I think he puts in a lot of work, and he also does a lot of stuff for this. One thing that he always used to say to us, and just like before I joined, I guess it might have been a bigger thing because it was kind of just like he said it and then everybody kind of laughed. It was more like he said it's tone and timing, and I want to specify how big timing of things, how timing affects things, because I have a very funny story about how, I mean, I don't know if anybody will find it funny, but it's a story about how communicating like empty the backpack and talking about like things that might bother somebody after like a loss or after something pretty dramatic happens and everybody's kind of emotional is not the right way to do it in my head, because I've seen a team fucking disintegrate before my eyes doing that. And I don't want to go into specifics, but it involved FNS, it involved me, Dazzle, Moose, and I think Cooper on one of our old teams. And our manager, it wasn't like a team brought up, it was our manager had to sit down after we got eliminated from like a major qualifier. It was like, so say one thing you hate about one another. And you have never seen a team fucking die faster than when somebody's really upset in the moment and is told to and forced. It was a forced to like say what they are having issues with somebody else. It was something that I have never seen before, and hopefully I never see again, because I felt bad for everybody in that room, me included. That was something different. So while I believe that all these things are imperative to running a good team and having a great team environment, it also has a very insane nuance to like, you have to get it right.
Yeah.
You have to do it properly, or it could be the complete opposite. It could kill the team. So,
dude, this is why like OpenAI made it so that you don't get medical advice from ChatGPT. Like, so some things you're supposed to go to the professional and do that shit properly. Like that's honestly, like, it's very hard for me to hear that, because it's that's just so not how you're supposed to execute that. It's just like you don't like fundamentally understand like the purpose of that thing, and then like how it's because you're like you're saying, like, you're dealing with very raw emotions, like, first of all, in that moment, but also the whole point is you're bringing out other stuff that's raw. So it's like, it's just not the it's just really bad.
Oh, dude, it is insane. I don't even like I guess it would be very similar to talking about, so if you're in a best of 3 and you lose the first map, you aren't supposed to talk about it. It's a waste of time. You lost the map. So I guess it would be the equivalent of like sitting everybody down as like, what do we do wrong so we can fix it for the next map? It is not important. You don't have to do that, especially after you just lost that map. You don't have to like break it down. That's for VOD review the next day or a week later, when like you actually can discuss it. Nobody's emotional about it. But like, it's a very big thing, especially when it's a big thing, I feel like, in any sport or any like thing when you're emotional, you don't want to talk about it. I would say it's even larger in esports because like the emotional intelligence on most players is probably lower than the average human. And that isn't like a diss. It just everybody is like cooped up playing games for 12 hours half their life. Of course, their emotional intelligence isn't like as high as somebody who's like talking to somebody, going out, drinking every other weekend, like whatever the case is. Like so that's also another factor that like it's like unspoken, but it is true. Like you have to be very soft hands with certain people.
Yeah, and I think there's a really good point. I think like one extra point too is that just on average, like it's very like male dominated too, and like on average, like men are just also just we're just not coded the same way exactly, and so social intelligence is just worse. Just it's just there's a lot. Yeah, the trade-offs there is it's definitely not the best
Yeah.
best recipe for success with all of that. So I mean that to be honest does make sense. You know why we've spent so much time talking about it because yeah, if everyone is disadvantageous, then or if there are so many disadvantages just inherently in this particular area that has a pretty big impact on team culture, which has a huge impact on winning, then there's loads of edges to be gained in this thing. So it makes sense that we're talking about it, and it makes sense because I wanted to ask you about because you said that you're really into sports psychology, and it's definitely an area that I love to talk about as well. So I'm curious what your foray into sports psychology has been like, whether that is just like cool stuff that you've learned that's been a revelation for you as a player, or stuff that you've been you're actively practicing.
It is something actually I'm looking at my other monitor because I actually swear I had it bookmarked. Uh oh, I do have it. Uh, it is someone called Daniel Coyle. I don't know if you're familiar. He
No.
wrote uh I'm pretty sure he wrote a book, but I didn't read the book. I was reading his blog, and I
Mm.
stumbled upon it when I was probably like 19, maybe 20. And it was a blog, and it was called The Talent Code. And I think that's the name of his book. Uh, so this is my opening into it, where it would do pretty much short stories on it would be the most uh, they probably had like 100 entries, maybe even more, but it would be a lot of just completely random, like it would be a random tennis player, and it would be a short story over how this person uh and him and his teammate, how they built such a strong relationship and how they won this Ubekrian 2017 tournament or like 2010 tournament. Like it would just be like the most insane thing you've ever heard, but it was always just stories covering like people that they shouldn't have done this, so let's dive into like how they did it and like what they did maybe differently from other people or what their edge was.
Mm.
So I just read like probably hundreds of like these short stories to give me motivation and to give me like a really outside the box way of looking at things that I feel like I've still carried on now because it's I think one of the biggest things I give this team in particular is just like an outside the box way of viewing things. And like not like let's do this comp because of this. Let's do what we want to do and then let's find little things in that will like beat that meta comp or like that. And that was kind of like my way of getting into sports psychology. I also read uh the name is it had to do, you might even know if I just say like some excerpts, but it was like it had to do with like the cleaner, the closer, uh stuff like that. If I
Oh, that does
really
ring a bell.
I read most of that book, but this is a long time ago, so I am forgetting the name. But like I do it's more like for fun reading. I more do it to like get some confidence and some internal motivation and just kind of like change up how I think. I think it's really important for me. I also loved working with the sports psychologists I worked with. My biggest one was Mind Body Esports. If you, I
Mhm.
think Edward is very influential. He's worked with a whole bunch of players, a whole bunch of teams. I worked with him with Sentinels, and I love him to death. I think he is such a smart human. I have the utmost respect for him. And he worked with me, and I think I got a lot out of that. I actually I still keep up with him. I will randomly message him about maybe some little issue that I'm having, or I just want a professional opinion and what his thoughts are, and he'll be like, "Yeah, dude, in 10 minutes, are you ready for a call? We could talk about it." And we'll turn it into a 2-hour call. He's a busy dude, but he'll make the time, and I have the utmost respect for them. I think they're some of the most insane, influential people that you could have a part of a roster. So, yeah, it's always just been so exciting for me.
Is it like a, if you look at a lot of the teams in it doesn't have to be Valorant specifically, but I guess in CS2, any games you're familiar with, what do you feel like this area is still maybe the most underrepresented, or do you feel like it's I guess another way to phrase the question would be what edge do you feel like teams underlook the most to be better than they currently are?
Yeah, I mean, it would have to be sports psychology to the most underutilized, but it also goes into it's it's hard to say. It's hard to quantify for other teams because I played with players and that literally not necessarily act as a sports psychologist, but will give your team so much confidence and will start conversations that sports psychologists might bring the team that. Yeah, sports psychology and having a professional do it is probably the best way to do it, and every team I think honestly would what is it? I guess get better with a sports psychologist rather than just talking about it. But some players are really good at keeping their team motivated and keeping their team, starting the discussion as a sports psychologist would, keeping your team confident in their own way. And sometimes that honestly does more work than a sports psychologist because it's your teammate. If I'm your teammate and I'm doing all these things, starting all these conversations while also keeping confidence within the server and doing all this work, and I'm just kind of doing everything. Yeah, I might burn out eventually, but you are more receptive to it because it's me talking to you, your teammate who's also playing the game and doing everything you're doing, instead of somebody might view a sports psychologist who is this guy? Why do I have to listen to this guy? Some people aren't as receptive.
Yeah, that makes sense. It reminds me of coaching in general too, just how difficult it can be to get a coach that may have just being just excellent coach, but they didn't play professionally before, so the players don't really have any familiarity or inherent respect to start that relationship, and it seems like something that some players was can never get over. And
Yeah.
I think it's a pretty big shame because a lot of because you can do coaching in a lot of different ways. This is why every team's interesting, because every team is kind of different in how they kind of do this, where you could have a head coach that actually isn't super amazing at any of the strategic stuff, but they're really good at building a system. They have an assistant coach that does do all the strategic stuff with the in-game leader, but the head coach is able to oversee all of the personnel, really takes care of the personal development. Again, doesn't necessarily need to have an insane level of understanding of how their game works, but understands where they're supposed to leverage their authority and position to make sure that the team itself is running optimally. Because this is another thing that I ran into as GM. I'm I was thinking, well, we have to make sure that the things we're doing in training are actually doing what we are doing them for. Which may sound kind of weird, but a lot of teams will actually just scrim. And if you're talking about previously, you were mentioning about how if you want to be disciplined in the match, you should practice disciplined. It's well, how do you measure what disciplined play is, or how do you understand that in the scrim that's something you're actually achieving? And if you have that focus, and that's why you're scrimming this week, is there another focus you should have on top of that? And then how do you measure for that outcome? Because how do you know that you're spending your time well? A head coach really should be very involved in making sure that all these processes are optimized, because if you are spending your time not effectively, you need to change something. So that's a hard part about what coaching is. It sounds like Bonkar's kind of the full package from what you
no. Bonk is I'm telling you, it's one of those things where I'm gonna watch my teammates, or hopefully I'm a part of it, but you know, like these guys are gonna win world championships, and Bonkar is gonna be like a super influential person within the scene, and everybody will be talking about him in the same way they talk about Mini, or the same way, you know, like they are that good, and it'll take time for people to see it, but they will see it, and yeah, it's exciting for me, at least personally, because like I have all this experience. Like I wish I could be like that good of a liar that I could just gas up my teammates like this without fully believing it. But like I do truly believe this. Like these guys are that good. So
Would you because we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, esports is just in general is like pretty
yeah,
unpredictable. But and obviously I'm definitely hoping to see you in franchise, franchising ASAP, so you guys get to show it on the best stages, what you're made of. But in a world where, let's say, for whatever reason, you don't make Ascension, and get to franchising like by the end of this year, is there a world where you would consider going to CS2? Do you think you still want to play in Valorant? Do you have like a long-term goal that like one day you might want to go into coaching, or maybe something completely outside of esports? What is like what's dapr outside of outside of all of the stuff that's happening right now?
yeah. I mean, I'll tell you that'll be a sad day, if that does happen. But yeah, if we don't qualify and I can't find my way into a franchising roster, whatever the case is, I don't think I'd ever compete in CS2. It's not really something that even sounds that fun to me.
Mm.
I Depending on like I can never like say with my heart that I would ever like want to retire from Valorant. I just have a really high competitive drive. I think when I talk to like ex managers and coaches and maybe even some teammates, it's probably like one of the most common things I hear is that I always had like such an insane thirst to win, and I still have it, and I hope I never lose it. But I do know within age, it'll be something I look back on like, damn, I really did want to win, because I will lose it. Uh, I just hope that isn't anytime soon. And until that goes away, I can't really see myself wanting to leave esports. If I really can't play, or I don't think anything's kind of worth playing with, I might try to get into coaching. I might try to get into like a GM position, or like commentating. Always sound fun to me because commentating, I can kind of let my thoughts, go with the game, or being an analyst. I think any desk work or being involved with any team sounds fun to me. I can go like outside the esports route. Like I love animals. Me and my girlfriend have been talking about like trying to start like an animal sanctuary when we get older, and like trying to get land and all this fun stuff. So if I do ever leave esports, you could probably bet that has to do with animals. But yeah, that's the
Nice.
only thing
That's
if I ever
awesome.
did.
Sweet, dude. That's so cool. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of land. You're in Texas, right?
Yeah.
A lot of land
Yeah.
out
No,
here.
yeah, a lot of land. So that's why. That's why. We love animals. I have my heart is never more full than Levi, my golden retriever, just sitting outside my door every day. I love him.
That's awesome. And I kind of want to get a dog. Fuck.
They're the
We have
best.
cats.
I have two cats too, but dogs are the best. I love
Yeah.
dogs.
Dude, there is something about just the, I don't know. There's just like
It is
there's just
never-ending love.
yeah. It's just
They will never be sad to see you ever.
yeah
Ever.
yeah
It is something that I don't think we as a species of human, like I don't think we take it like at face value for what it is. It is insane. There is nothing in this world other than your parents, if you're lucky, that will love you as much as a dog will.
yeah. Well
Nothing.
said.
It
Yeah, and
it is
also
insane.
like the fact that you can go up to, I don't know, it's just so amazing sometimes when you see just like a dog in this like place with like new people, and it's like instantaneously are just best friends with everyone. It's like what the
Yeah,
fuck, like this is amazing. Yeah,
they are. They're
yeah,
too pure. They're too pure for this world.
true.
And I just wanna. That's why I'm like a big animal. Like I am probably gonna get into fostering animals sometime this year. we're just looking into it. We want to make sure everything is good with our animals that we have right now. That because like the worst thing we could do is foster an animal. You know, like taking care of an old animal that doesn't really have any place to go. Or there's a lot of places around here. Like there are some kill shelters in Texas, so we want to foster from there, and stuff like that. But we want to make sure, we don't want to take in a foster that our dogs or our animals aren't like, you know, they don't like them or they're aggressive or anything
Yeah.
negative. We want to make sure everything's okay with that. But we'll probably get into that very soon.
Yeah, makes sense. All right. With that said, it's definitely a good place to
a wholesome end.
yeah.
A wholesome end.
I totally
I like
agree.
that.
Are there any closing thoughts that you have? Whether it's something interesting that you're doing, like a book reading, an event that's coming up for you, or just like shout outs to people that have been meaningful to you, like now and along the way. Like what do you got for the closing thoughts?
Yeah. I just want to say I don't have anything really coming up. It's just our season. I think our off-season events time is probably done. Unless something comes up last minute, but probably unlikely. I just want to say thank you to everybody who has been supportive of me since the start. It really does mean a lot. I really want to thank my mom, my grandma, my grandpa, my cousins, all my huge family. My grandpa, he always messages me. He is I think 87 and he watches all my games and he is probably my biggest supporter. And honestly, whenever I feel down in gaming, I always feel like I look at him and I just want to make like people that support me and people that love me, I just want to make them proud. And I'll never like give up any. I will always put in like full effort, and I do it for them, and I do it for you guys, and I just want to say thank you because it really does mean a lot, and that's really it.
Amazing. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for coming on. It was an absolute blast chatting to you. I'm sure I'll be asking you again in the future if you're down. Thank you
Yeah,
so much,
no, of
man.
course, it was so much fun. Yeah, no, thank you for asking me. I have a blast every time, so.